You won't believe what we're about to reveal. A pastor's son facing shocking allegations, a daughter speaking out against her own family, and a powerful church with deep ties to Daystar desperately trying to keep the truth buried. This isn't speculation. This is real. And today, we're pulling back the curtain on Faith Life Church, the ministry founded by Gary and Joni Kacy, to expose the devastating truth they've fought to conceal. Multiple victims are stepping forward, and the main culprit is their own son. Yes, you heard that right. The very son of Gary and Joni Kacy, the founders of Faith Life Church, is accused of multiple acts of SA. But it doesn't stop there. Not only are there victims, but the Kacy family has allegedly used their influence, wealth, and connections to suppress the truth. Faith Life Church wasn't just any ministry, it was featured on Daystar, giving them a powerful platform to reach millions while keeping their secrets hidden. Stay with us, because what we're about to uncover will leave you speechless. Faith Life Church has long been known for its preaching of the prosperity gospel, promising wealth, healing, and spiritual growth. But behind the bright lights and polished sermons, there's a dark side that no one wants to talk about. And that dark side includes one of the most shocking revelations of all. The son of the church's founders, Tommy Kacy. He has been accused of multiple acts of SA. At first, these allegations were dismissed as nothing more than rumors. But as the stories kept piling up, it became clear that this wasn't just a few isolated incidents. The victims, young girls who had been a part of the church's youth group, were being silenced, and the Kacy family didn't seem to care. They didn't want the truth to come out. But the truth couldn't stay buried forever, and it wasn't just the victims who were speaking out. Kristen Kacy, the daughter of Gary and Joni Kacy, came forward and dropped a bombshell that nobody saw coming. She too was a victim of her brother Tommy's SA. Kirsten's brave decision to speak out was a turning point. She said, "I can't take the silence anymore. The truth needs to come out." For years, she stayed quiet, too afraid to break the family's loyalty. But with every new victim coming forward and their cries for justice ignored, Kristen knew she had to act. But here's where things get even darker. Faith Life Church has deep ties with Daystar Television, a platform that broadcasts around the world. Both Gary and Joni Kacy have been featured on Daystar multiple times, and their connection with the network runs deep. But as shocking as it sounds, this isn't the first time Daystar has been tied to a scandal like this. Faith Life Church didn't just rely on Daystar to hide the truth, they also had powerful political connections. Joni Kacy, Gary's wife, took office as Commissioner of Knox County, Ohio, and with that position, she reportedly had connections to Ohio's Attorney General, Dave Yost. According to the allegations, Joni used her influence to shut down investigations and dismiss the charges against Tommy. Local police had enough evidence to move forward with the case, but the investigation mysteriously stalled and the case was dropped due to conflicts of interest. And what was the conflict? Joni's close friendship with Dave Yost. In fact, Dave Yost has admitted to dining with the Kai family and even discussing business with them. Instead of protecting the victims, Yost used his influence to ensure the case went nowhere. Victims have been left in the dark, and those who speak out are ignored. How much longer will this injustice continue? Just the day before, Kristen Kacy, the daughter of Gary and Joni Kacy, courageously stepped forward and exposed the shocking truth. She was one of the victims of her brother Tommy's SA. But the very next day, Gary, the founder of Faith Life Church, responded to these accusations in a way that would stun anyone with a conscience. As the camera rolled, Gary stood before his congregation and made an unbelievable statement. Instead of acknowledging his daughter's pain or addressing the horror of the allegations head-on, he chose to completely deny it. "I don't see any SA happening in our church," Gary said, "and we stand against it."
It was disheartening, too, to see what he had said and how he had spoken up after all these things had happened.
And I think you probably know that we stand absolutely against any kind of harassment or abuse. I think you would expect that. It's against everything we believe and teach. And again, most of you know us for years, and that we've never endorsed that type of activity or allow it to affect people. Please understand that I am not aware of anyone currently on staff that has been accused of such things. I think that you know we would never do such a thing. Is that right? I hope you do. we're not hiding anything or trying, you know.
There was no change. There was nothing to acknowledge. He said no one under his current staff, under the current staff apparently, has anything. And if there's anything that has to deal with that, it'll just go through the police. But the problem here is he's not taking accountability. The pastors are not taking accountability. They don't care. They also speak a very prosperous, very prosperity gospel. Like, oh, you know, give money and God will bless you and heal you and do all this and that, which we all know is a false gospel. They're preaching a false gospel on top of deceiving the people amongst the church that all these allegations aren't true. And there's been proof of them coming out that it is true. And these people's stories will be going to court and they will be heard. This is disgusting. People need to take a stand up against this sick stuff. This is why people don't want to come to Jesus anymore. Don't want to fall in love with Jesus, because it's the church and the people in the congregation that's hurting these people inside, making them not want to come to Christ. And it's disgusting. And I won't sit back anymore and I won't make this just nothing. This needs to get spread out.
Kirsten's bravery has sparked a chain reaction, giving other victims the courage to finally speak up. For so long, they lived in silence, paralyzed by fear, not just of the church, but of the Kacy family's overwhelming power and influence. They knew that speaking out could bring severe retaliation. But now, the truth is starting to come to light, and Faith Life Church can no longer brush these horrific allegations off as mere rumors. The floodgates are opening, and more survivors are stepping forward with their own harrowing stories. The question remains, will justice finally prevail, or will the Kacy family's influence be enough to keep them shielded from the consequences they so desperately deserve? When you take a step back and look at the broader picture, you begin to see a disturbing pattern emerging within these powerful ministries. Time and time again, those in positions of influence seem to have one thing in common. They attempt to silence the voices of those who dare to speak out against the truth. Look at the case of Joni Lamb, co-founder of Daystar television network. Her own granddaughter was a victim of SA, and despite the gravity of the situation, efforts were made to suppress the story. Fast forward to the present, and we see a chillingly similar scenario unfolding with Faith Life Church. Kristen Kacy, daughter of Gary and Brenda Kacy, bravely spoke out, revealing that she too was a victim of SA, but this time by none other than their own son. It's not a coincidence. It's a pattern, one that runs deep within these ministries. A pattern of covering up the truth, a pattern of using power, influence, and even financial leverage to intimidate and silence the very voices that need to be heard the most. These powerful figures know that once the truth gets out, their world will crumble. So, they resort to manipulation and control, shutting down the voices of those who refuse to stay silent. But the question is, how much longer can this go on? How much longer can they hide the truth before it all comes crashing down? The truth can't stay hidden forever. The voices of the victims are growing louder, and justice must be served. Will those in power continue to cover up the truth, or will they finally be held accountable? Stay vigilant, stay informed, and never stop seeking the truth.